Hello, this is Jill from Paper Daisy Crafting. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator and I'm here today to show you how to make these lovely floral birthday cards using Stampin' Up set Avant Garden. This is one of the free sets that you can earn by placing an order of up to £45 or more from my store. And you can receive this stamp set that I've used here absolutely free with that order, but only until the 31st of March 2017. So if you're watching this video after that day, I'm afraid you won't be able to get this stamp set. But if you're watching it beforehand, don't delay. Get your order in quick, because I think things are beginning to sell out now. We're in the final few days of celebration and I would hate you to be disappointed. I've loved using this stamp set. It's been one of my favourites. I'm going to be so sad when it finally goes. But anyway, let's get on and I'll show you how I made these cards. Really easy, but really lovely and effective. Okay, so I've made these ones in colours, 2016 to 18 in colours, Sweet Sugar Plum, Flirty Flamingo and Peekaboo Peach. But today we're going to be making the card in a different colour. We're going to be using Rose Red. So I have a piece of cardstock here that measures 21 by 15 centimetres, or 8 1/4 by 5 7/8. And then I have a piece of Whisper White card that we're going to stamp on, which measures 9.7 centimetres by 14.3 centimetres, or 3 7/8 inches, 5 5/8 inches. All these measurements will be on my blog if you want to catch up with them later on. Okay, so that's the cardstock we need. We need 3 stamp pads. We need Rose Red, which will coordinate with our cardstock. We need Pear Pizzazz for the foliage, and we need Crumb Cake, which I'm going to stamp the stamens in. Okay, I've already mounted the stamps. It's this stamp set here. This is the stamp set I'm using. I've used it so much. I absolutely love it. It's really one of my favourites. I've used it so much, and I'm actually using today this flower, the 2 leaves, the stamens, and actually I'm going to use the background spotty stamp and Happy Birthday Wishes as the sentiment. And I've already mounted the stamps onto our clear block, so they're all ready to go. This one is on a C block. The greeting is on a C block. The flower head itself is on an B block. This little leaf is on an A block. The stamens are on a G block, and these two are on blocks that aren't Stampin' Up because I don't have enough of the small blocks. They'll be in my next order because I just love using the Stampin' Up ones much better than I do any other make. Okay, and the only other thing that I've used on this card was the liquid glue. This is my favourite adhesive that we have, mainly because it gives you a little bit of wiggle room when you're placing things. You can move them around a little bit if they don't quite line up. So I love using this, and it's got a very, very fine tip, so you can get a very, very fine line of glue. Okay, so we're ready to start. So the first thing I need is my piece of Rose Red card, which we're going to score down the middle to make our card blank. I'm going to use my Stampin' Up scoreboard, and as I said, this measures 8 1/4 inches, so I'm going to score it at 4 1/8, which is exactly halfway down there. So just score it. Love my scoreboard. Don't know how I lived for so long without this tool. Absolutely brilliant and so easy to use. So that's that, and then we're just going to fold that in half, and I'm going to use my bone folder just to get a nice crisp fold on that card blank. Okay, I'm going to put that to one side for the moment. We don't need that at the moment. I'm going to take my piece of Whisper White that we record on, that we'd stamp on, and I'm going to start stamping. First of all with Rose Red, and I'm going to start stamping the flower stamp with the flower head. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp one once I've inked it, and then I'm going to stamp the next one without re-inking. We call it stamping off. So one in the middle there. This will dry lighter than that. It looks very dark at the moment. And then one, just turn it a little bit, and next to it, but with stamped off. And again, carrying on round the card, just turning the stamp a little bit each time. So one which is inked, and one which is stamped off. So can you see I'm just making a little circle of stamps here, and then ink it up again, and one that's inked and one that isn't. And while I've got my rose red ink out, I'm just going to stamp the sentiment as well. Then I can put that ink away. I've finished with it. So here's my sentiment banded on my block, and I am just going to line it up and hope that it's going to be straight. There, lovely. Okay, I can now put away my rose red and can get out my crumb cake, which is what I'm going to use for the stamens. Very easy. Just ink up the stamp, and just at the base of the flower, just stamp the stamens. They won't look like they'll show up very much, but I think when it dries these will show up a bit better. There we go. Okay, and then I can put my crumb cake away. And finally we're going to use the green, the Pear Pizzazz green stamp pad to do all the foliage. And again, I'm going to use a Stampin' Up technique. I'm going to use the little leaf, the stamp with the 5 little leaves on it first of all, and I'm going to stamp one which has been inked, and then I'm going to do one that's been stamped off, so it's slightly paler, so you get 2 shades. I'm going to do some in the middle here, otherwise we're going to have a great big gap in the middle here. So I'll do a couple of leaves in the middle there, and then just wherever I fancy round the edge. This is as messy as I go with card making. My style is generally quite clean and simple, but this card, I just love just being able to plonk the stamps wherever really and seeing what the effect is. I just love it. And it seems quite adventurous to me because I'm not that sort of stamper normally. Okay, so I've finished with that stamp. I'm now going to use just the long leaf, the elongated leaf, and just put that. I stamped it, inked it again there, but I'm going to do that one inked off. I'm going to do an inked one in the middle here, and maybe one up there that's inked off. So just decide where you might think you want these leaves, and plonk them on. Doesn't really matter about the placement too much. There we go, and one stamped off. There we go. Looking quite busy. Okay, and the last thing is I'm going to use this little background stamp of spots. I'm going to stamp it off every time, so I'm going to stamp on my grid paper and then stamp it because I want it to be quite pale. I don't want it to be too in your face on the picture, so I'm going to stamp it off and stamp, ink, stamp off and stamp, ink, stamp off and stamp, ink, stamp off and stamp, and so on. And you can decide how much of that you want on, but I think that's fine. Last thing we're going to do is mount it on our card blank. So like I said, I like to use the Tombow glue. Just, it's really easy to get a very, very fine line of glue with the Tombow because you can just put enough pressure on the tube to get a very fine line of glue. But what it will do is it won't stick immediately, so you can move the card around if you need to. Just a bit down the middle and onto my card blank. There. How quick and easy was that, but how beautiful. Wouldn't you like to get a birthday card like that through the post?